Chapter 10. What I Heard in the Apple Barrel and Afterward. We worked well into the night. I was thrilled with the sea talk and quick banter of the men. As we worked, Long John raised up his crutch like a baton and started up his fast-paced sea chanty. 15 men on a dead man's chest, and the whole crew joined in with yo-ho-ho and a bottle of rum. Even then, in my excitement, it brought me back to our own captain at the inn. Before I knew it, we were on our voyage to Treasure Island. The voyage was long, and the Hispaniola soon proved itself to be an able vessel that sped us along on our journey. Not so with Mr. Arrow. He often seemed seasick, and though the doctor tried to look after him, he stumbled about on deck and had to be helped into bed as often as not. One day, he disappeared entirely. "Well," said Captain Smollett, "that's a relief. Overboard and good riddance." And with this, the captain had to find a new mate, and did so in Israel Hands, the wily old seaman who was a great friend of Long John Silver. Long John himself always turned out to be a great seaman in his own way. He was quick and nimble and ever helpful, and the men loved him dearly. I spent much of my time by his side in the galley, helping with the cooking, with Long John and his parrot for my only company. "I call my parrot," he told me, "Captain Flint, after the famous pirate." At this, the parrot would squawk out, "Pieces of 8, pieces of 8, and would carry on until his master covered the cage with a shred of torn sail. He then told me of its great age and the parrot's many voyages. During this time, we drew close, and I thought him the best of men and a true friend. In the meantime, Captain Smollett and the squire remained distant. Everything about the captain's displeasure interfered with Mr. Trelawney's sense of adventure and joy at being aboard. The crew, on the other hand, never had an easier time of it, I imagine. There was good wind and good food for all, and even a big barrel of apples on deck at all times for any to take his pick of the sweet fruit. All of this the captain considered taking away from us, but as you will see, the apple barrel did eventually serve its purpose. If not for that barrel, we might have had no warning and might all have been killed in a foul manner. Late one day, as the sun was going down, I chose to go and find an apple for myself out of the barrel and, finding it nearly empty, crawled right in to get to the bottom. Once inside, I sat there with the darkness coming on and began to feel quite sleepy. Suddenly, though, I heard a muffled voice and sensed a body leaning against the barrel that I knew to be Silver himself. After hearing only the first few words, I trembled with fear, for now I knew that the lives of the few honest men left on board depended on me alone. The fearful whispering continued. "Flint was captain and I was quartermaster. It was on that voyage," continued Silver, "that I lost my leg and Pew lost his eyes. That ship was dripping with red blood and fit to sink with all the gold we found." I soon heard that he was spinning yarns for the youngest hand on deck, who was thrilled with his tales. I blushed to hear him use the same compliments on this lad that he had used on me. I knew then that I had been played for a fool. I was filled with rage and shame. "We gentlemen of fortune live rough and lean, but when we get back to shore, we carry hundreds of pounds, not handfuls of coins. I began just like you, but made my fortune at sea. By now, my wife has sold my tavern and taken all my money. We'll meet up again one day, I'm sure. Oh, on our journeys, some feared Flint and some feared Pew, but all feared Long John Silver. That was the roughest crew afloat. The devil himself would have been afraid to sail with them. I tell you, I am not a boasting man, but you may be sure of yourself on old John's ship." It was clear the lad was under his influence, and Silver continued to flatter and stroke him. Soon enough, as John continued to talk of gentlemen of fortune, I understood that he meant pirates, and that he himself was one. By and by, Israel, one of the crew, came up to talk with them. "Look here, John and Dick," he said, "how long are we going to stand off? I've had enough of Captain Smollett, by thunder." Then Silver turned hard on the man. "You'll attack now and take away the captain who can steer this ship to the treasure, all for a better berth to lay your scurvy head in. You'll wait and you'll act only on my signal." "And then," asked Israel, "what do we do with them?" "My vote," said Long John, "is death. When I'm living like a king later, I don't want survivors coming back to have me hanged. Now, Dick, have yourself a sweet apple from this here barrel, courtesy of me." With this I froze, for I knew the game was over. I thought of running, but could find no strength. But Israel himself saved my life, saying he was too excited by the thought of their mutiny to eat anything more that day. Long John laughed at a wicked laugh, while Israel headed below decks. Suddenly, the moon came up, and the call went out over the sail as the lookout shouted, "Land ho!" With that, all the ship's men were on deck, trying to stare through the fog at our destination. The captain gave out orders and asked if any had seen this island. To my surprise, Long John's voice rang out, admitting he had once stayed there. When the captain asked him where we might anchor, John answered him clearly. Skeleton Island, they call it. It was a pirate's place at one time, but no more. That hill is the foremast hill, and that big one the spyglass, as they used it for a lookout. With that, the captain produced a chart for Silver to see. As the pirate leaned forward, I saw his disappointment, for this was a new chart that laid out the island, but with no red crosses or written notes leading to the treasure. Silver still pointed out where we might anchor and complimented the captain on bringing us so speedily to our destination. I was now truly frightened of Silver, and as he drew up to me, I shivered. "Oh, Hawkins, son, this is a sweet spot, this island. I'll pack you a lunch and we'll go and spend an afternoon exploring. I remember being here as a youth myself." With that, he clapped me on the shoulder and left me while I turned my attention to the doctor. I hurriedly told him that something terrible had happened and that he should find an excuse to get below decks with the captain and Mr. Trelawney and then to call me down too. He wasted no time explaining the situation to the captain, who called all hands to deck. "Lads," he said, "this is the island we've been sailing for, and to celebrate, Mr. Trelawney will provide double rations today and tomorrow for every sailor aboard. Please excuse us now while we go below decks and have a feast for ourselves." With that, there was a cheer for the squire and the captain, led by Long John himself, that treacherous pirate. Then the three men headed below decks and soon called me to join them. "Well, Hawkins," said the squire, "speak your mind." With that, I told them all that had happened. They then sat me down, patting me on the back and congratulating me for all the good work I had done. "I have been a fool," the squire said, but the captain was quick to confess that he, too, had been taken in by the crew's hard work. Now they all cursed Long John Silver's name for leading them astray. It was time to figure out how many honest men were still on board. We counted no more than 7. There's nothing to do but wait until we know who is honest and who is not. We shall have to lay back and wait and see. That's the best we can do. "Hawkins," said the squire, "I put my faith in you. Whatever you can find out will be important to us." With this I felt deep fear. There were 6 of us, 7 if I included myself, against 19 hardened pirates.